Good morning, Peter.
Hello, Rusty. How are you?
Good, mate. Nice to catch up again after the long weekend, should we say?
Yeah.
Today, we're going to talk about your different operations you've done. Everybody knows about them now. But the choice of weapons and why, and the type of weapons that we use on your different operations. And we'll go through it from when you started to when you finished, so people get the idea chronologically all the way through. Got an idea now why Peter picked those weapons. Before we do that, a quick introduction. Okay, the book, No Mean Soldier. Peter has it there, but if he hasn't, it doesn't matter because there's a new one, and that one is now being received by Peter, and we have all of the copies. So the old one is null and void at the moment. We have the new one. We don't have it in hand, but it's arrived, and we'll have it by Friday for definite. So it's called No Mean Soldier, Peter's Stories, an updated book, and it looks really good. So you'll see that advertised, and at long last, it's here. And they will be getting book signings. The first ones will be about Workington this weekend. Anybody up that area, keep an eye on the webpage. And that will be done at Sfera Antiques. And we're hoping for a good turnout. So I'll be there and Peter will be there, new book in hand. The film Killing Escobar can be found. Just type it into Google and it will tell you where it's been shown. Great film, part of Peter's book, made into a film. Amazing. Our collectors page now, in just over about 12, 13, 14 months, we're up to 12,000 plus now. Absolutely amazing. Thank you very much from Peter and myself. That's really good. And we're getting nearly 1,000 a week. Can you believe that? It's absolutely flying. Anybody else? It's the SAS Special Air Service Military Collector, I beg your pardon, Militaria Collectors and Facts page. Take a look at it. If you want to join it, just ask. We'll take a look. And any like-minded people, we are accepting, and you wouldn't believe what part of the world they're coming from at the moment. Doing really well. Peter's YouTube channel, Peter McAleese SAS TV. Get yourself onto that. Have a look at what's going on. And that's Peter's own YouTube channel. And of course, the website now is up and running. And the reason we have to go through this is because we're getting so many new members. And of course, it's www.petermacaleese.com. On there, it's updated and it'll tell you what's going on, where you can see Peter and what else is going on in Peter's life. So that said, we're now going to move on to the choice of weapons for different operations throughout the world, why, and the type of weapons that Peter used. And we're going to start off when he was a young para. I'm not even going to ask him if he had a weapon before he joined the army, okay, because I don't want to know. But when he joined the paras, did the para course, went into the paras. Peter, tell us a bit about the first weapon you were ever given, bayonets, whatever. Enlarge on that so people understand. There you were, a civilian lad, do the paras, pass the paras. There you are, son. There's your first weapon. How about that and the instruction that came with it?
In the Parachute Regiment Depot, the instruction was extremely good. The first weapon I ever had was the SLR, the self-loading rifle. Some people call it the FN. And the we carried them everywhere where you went. It was, you know, at night time, you put it into the army, picked it up first thing in the morning. And you literally live with your weapon. You had it with you every day. And in our off time, all we would do is practice stripping and assembling. The thing about the paras is they were very, very much into the weapon training. Stripping weapons, assembling weapons, gun firing, all right, gun stops, gun fires 1 or 2 more rounds, stops again, cock the guns, apply the safety catch, move up, change the barrel opening catch and close it again, safety catch on, off, carry on firing. It was just drilled into you the whole time. Top hook and pin, bottom hook and pin, static line clear to the left-hand side, storage of the static line. That was all the checks you had. It was just constantly checks, parachute checks, rifle checks, Bren gun checks, stripping and assembling the whole time. And you had to do it in your own time as well. So some nights would be training there till maybe 8, 9 o'clock at night, just practicing under an NCO, stripping and assembling weapons and carrying out different drills.
Well, I can relate to that, Peter, because it's exactly the same as I had to do. And the reasons people say, what's the point? The point is very simple. Nighttime or dark, in the dark in particular, in the daytime, it's easy. You need to know it parrot fashion. And that's why it's drilled into you. If something goes wrong, you need to get that weapon back up and firing straight away. Okay. And the other reason, of course, is safety of your own comrades around you.
Yeah.
They need to have confidence in each other. Okay. That if something goes wrong, they're going to be back on their feet as quickly as possible. So pretty much the same as I had to do. And then we move on, Peter, from the paras, the parachute regiment, you move into the SAS. Now, I know that it probably didn't change much from your time to my time. Just tell the viewers what happened once you pass selection and you get this vast stuff of different weaponry put out. Why? Where the sort of stuff was from. And I'm talking about the grenades, the weapons, and so on. Just enlighten them of what they gave you to look at, first of all, and then had to become a master of.
My introduction, as I say, to foreign weapons was in the SAS. And they were introduced to us, and honestly, it was just like, it was like a new world. You saw what the enemy were using. You knew how capable they were of using it. And you had to make yourself as capable as they are with their own weapons. And it's important because if you're working behind the enemy line, sometimes you've got to use their weapons.
And the reason was because some of the weapons that were there, the AK-47s and stuff, Peter, can you enlarge a little bit on that? How you could, if there's enemy that no longer require them, let's say they're dead and you need some ammunition.
Yeah, I mean, I jumped into a camp in the Mozambique and I was carrying about 500 rounds of AK on me. Sorry, 300 rounds of AK ammunition because I was carrying an RPK, which is a heavy barreled Kalashnikov. And as I say, I jumped in there, and as I say, the battle was raging for a day and a half, and I came out with more ammunition than I went in with because I'd been taking it off the enemy.
Well, it's better not to run short, Peter, for definite.
Yeah, they had a good selection of weapons, and an awful lot of cases. Some of the stuff that the enemy had were better than we had. But the thing was, we were possibly more skilled than they were. So that there was a balance there.
And of course, remember when in the SAS in particular, where we are at the moment, it took you through the foreign weapons recognition. Did you do that? Where they lay all the weapons out so you could recognize what they are. Do you want to enlarge a little bit on some of the hand grenades and stuff like that?
Yeah.
You would have seen?
Well, I picked up an awful lot when I was with the Rhodesian SAS because there was a mountains of the stuff there that we'd captured off the enemy, and there was stick grenades, there was pineapple type grenades, there was plain grenades, just like the American M26, and then there was the little stick grenades. Now they were, you looked at them and you could, if you didn't know the stick grenade, you wouldn't know what it's all about, because there was a screw on the bottom, just like a bottle, and out came a little ring, and the ring you put around your finger through the grenade and it'd pull the pin out. But there were two different types. One had a piece of fine string on it, and the other one was beaded with little small beads on it. And the reason for this was, one was for using in buoy traps, and one was to be used like an ordinary grenade. Would you like me to tell you a story on what happened to me?
Yeah, go on then, mate.
I was called out to a keep in Rhodesia, and they said the gate had been booby trapped. And I went up there and I cleared all around it. I got the people out of the way and I just cleared all around the grenade. And then I noticed that it was a double booby trap. There was a string running from one to the other, but it was under the ground. Now, if I'd have lifted that grenade, it would have pulled the pin on the instantaneous grenade and I would have been blown up. So what I did is, as I say, I cut the string. I then took it away, and I got back and I worked on the instantaneous grenade. And I can tell you, they were instantaneous. What I did to get rid of it, I tied string onto it, put it the other side of a mound, and just pulled the pin out with the string. And she went, as soon as the pin was out, she went pop. So there was two different grenades there. If you didn't know it, and you didn't know these little things, you could come unstuck.
Did anybody come unstuck when you were there, Peter? You know, anybody unlucky enough that you can remember?
Yeah, some of the enemy.
Well, pull here.
And, you know, I used to take a stick grenade. They were a highly sought after thing, especially in Rhodesia. And what I used to do is unscrew it, take the detonator out of it, then pick out the explosive from the inside, just go around it with a stick, clear it, and then wash it out, and then bore 3 holes in the top of the and the little top that's screwed on. And I used to give them to my friends as salt cellars, and they were highly sort of sought after, you know. So they did come to good use, some of them, you know.
You should have brought them back here, mate. You could have signed them these days. They'd been worth something. But yeah. So with everything that goes on, you know, for people listening, there's always some sense of humor there. And I've always said it from day one. Without it, and when you think back on some of the stuff you get away with, it's unbelievable. But then you think about it afterwards and it's a laugh.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's the way, certainly I've gone through my life, and, you know, it's a laugh a minute. So, you know, who cares wins. But the other thing is, so you moved on from the Rhodesian SAS, then you ended up in South Africa. Okay, a click away. But what about the weapons and stuff that you used on different operations? You got any stories on the different types of weapon, how they differed from the Rhodesian, how they differed from the SAS, the Brit stuff, and why you chose them for the particular operations you went on?
Right. The South Africans, first, they had the Galil, and they had 50-round panic mags on them. It was a good, reliable weapon. And then what happened was they started making them themselves, and there was a few design faults. Sometimes you tended to get double feeds. And I was in the middle of a contact at a place called Komato, and I went to shoot a chap. He came running towards me in a trench, I went to shoot him and I did a double feed on my weapon, and I finished up smashing him with a weapon butt. And lucky enough, one of the guys came round the side of me and shot him. But he was a large, frightening-looking character.
Just before we go any further, just explain to them, Peter, what a double feed is.
A double feed is when you don't, your case in the cartridge, your used case in the cartridge is stuck inside the barrel, and the claw that comes down to eject it doesn't quite go in contact, and it doesn't pull out. But it also then feeds the second round in, so you've got a used round and a live round jammed in the area of the chamber, in the working parts. The South Africans, being the South Africans, they got round the problem fairly quick, and they looked at the design fault and improved on it.
And it works after that, obviously.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than not being able to fire your weapon, is there?
Yeah. I mean, the amount of weapons that I came across in Rhodesian South Africa, for example, I was up in Angola and I came across 2 9mm submachine guns that were used in Italian aircraft in World War One. I think it was World War One, and they were called the Villa Perosa, and they were in a pair, but they were only 9mm. And you know, those days, I think everybody had to be a gentleman, and you only fired at the other pilot, you know, because the 9mm compared with 7.62 or 30 caliber, there's no comparison, you know. But this weapon, it was honestly, it was like a display piece. Everybody came to see it. We came across some 12.7 heavy barreled anti-aircraft guns, 14.5s. There was such an array of weapons. And then one day we came across the ultimate, which every soldier wanted, was a Tommy gun. And we captured this Tommy gun, and 3/4 of the guys who was with it had photographs taken in different poses, you know, gangster style, you know. The only thing missing was Al Capone.
Yeah. And the hat.
And the hat.
Yeah. The hat, yeah.
Aye.
Yeah. But as I say, great stories. But what about for the, you know, I've had some questions about, you know, the Claymore devices, Claymore. Now, the standard one is point, click, fire it. But tell them about when you didn't have that, but you needed a Claymore, what a Claymore was used for, Peter, and how you improvised them. Yeah.
In the Rhodesian Army, they were extremely good at it. And what they did is they got special little dishes made up, and we called them mini Claymores. And there was little clips in, you could put one on top of the other. Can you see that? So you maybe double bank them. And the secret of the Claymore is to get them laid properly. You know, lay them maybe 10 meters off the track, pointing, you know, the opposite side of where you think the enemy are coming, and the other one pointing the other way, so as where the enemy will go. So you have that 30 meter, 40 meter, 50 meter gap, where when you fire the Claymores, they're going to go right down the track instead of straight onto it. Some people point them onto the track, but if you angle them down the track, you're going to get more damage done.
And you used them quite a lot, you know, because you had to make them yourself anyway. You know?
No, we carried them with us all the time. And when you're into an LUP at night time, you laid out the Claymores. It was just a drill. It was automatically done.
Yeah, and it's for an all-round defense for those who don't know. You know, it's a great safety tool, really, to have them pointing towards the enemy, just in case they come and they fire them themselves.
I had a friend, you've probably heard me speak about him before. I refer to him as the posh jock. And they stood down for lunch and were cooking, and he went out and laid his Claymore out, you know, his defence in various angles. And lo and behold, there was a group of the enemy had been tracking them. And as soon as they came onto him, he fired his Claymore and done quite a bit of depredation, you know. So it was you know, they're a handy device for when you get into an LUP or you have a 1 hour stop.
Yes, it is.
Or you have a 1 hour stop somewhere or a half hour stop, get your Claymores out the whole time. And as I say, the Rhodesians, they were good at it. It was automatic. He stopped, the guy went out and made a Claymore. Because there was a reason for it. We couldn't get the real Claymore, so we had to improvise them. To me, they were just as good. They did the same type of job. They may have not had the spread that the real Claymores have got, but they were there. You had something to counter in case the enemy was following you or attacked you.
And just before we wrap up, Peter mentioned the LUP. Actually, do you want to just mention what it stands for, Peter, and quickly what would happen in that LUP once you were inside?
What we used to do is we go into an LUP, which is a line-up position. And what we would do, we'd go along a track, and there was 2 ways you could do it. You could go along a track and then double back, maybe 100 meters back, and get back up where you came from, 100 meters away from the track, and you went into an LUP. Maybe you were just having lunch, maybe you were just having a break, but it was done automatically. So if the enemy was following you, they were looking down the track, but you already had it ambushed. So there was 1 or 2 guys were fairly successful with that. And the other way you could do it was by doing step-offs. The enemy would be following your track. The first man would step off, there were still tracks. The second man would step off, there was still tracks. And you just moved into the bush and set your ambush up from there. So when the enemy thought they were following tracks, you had them bushwhacked. And it was simple. I mean, it was nothing new. It was used in the days of Malaya, you know.
But it worked, and you don't fix something that's not broken, you know.
It did work.
It's worked. So really, that's it for this one, guys. Thanks, Peter, very much for the stories on that. I'm sure they'll enjoy it. You'd like to say anything to them before we wrap, Peter?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the people for watching this little series. I've had a couple of feedbacks, mainly from my friends. Of course, you get the odd dig, you know. But you know, it makes me more enthusiastic to talk and tell stories of what happened in the earlier part of my life.
Yeah, good stories, Peter. I'm sure they'll enjoy this one as well. And thanks for that. And goodbye for now.